If you care about how men actually stayed alive in the Second World War, not the polished stories or parade ground narratives, you're in the right place. Before we go any further, make sure you subscribe to the Legacy of Survival channel, because this is where we preserve the kind of hard-earned knowledge that never made it into official manuals. What follows isn't trivia. It's the quiet, often uncomfortable reality of survival in a global war, passed between soldiers in whispers or learned the hard way. These are items men depended on, but rarely mentioned in letters home or after the war, because admitting you relied on them meant admitting fear, vulnerability, or desperation. Stay with me through this opening, because once you understand the mindset behind these items, you'll never look at WWII. Survival the same way again. Veterans often spoke about rifles, rations and medals, but survival hinged on less glamorous tools. The first of these was the personal sewing kit, often called a housewife. Issued in nearly every army, from the British to the Germans, it wasn't about neat uniforms. A torn boot seam in winter could mean frostbite, infection, or death. Soldiers quietly learned to stitch leather, canvas, and wool under terrible conditions. Today, the lesson is simple and practical. Knowing basic repair skills matters more than carrying replacements. A needle, strong thread, and the ability to fix what you already have can keep you mobile when resupply is impossible. Another unspoken lifeline was improvised fire-starting material. Matches were issued, but they ran out quickly and failed in wet conditions. Soldiers learned to hoard candle stubs, scrape magnesium from damaged equipment, or use fuel-soaked cloth tucked into pockets. In the forests of Eastern Europe or the rain-soaked hedgerows of Normandy, fire meant warmth, dry socks, and hot food. Modern survivalists can apply this directly by carrying multiple fire-starting methods and learning how to improvise tinder from damaged gear, packaging, or even clothing fibres. One item rarely discussed was spare civilian clothing hidden in packs or buried along routes. Officially forbidden, this practice was common among soldiers operating behind lines or retreating units, especially on the Eastern Front. Blending in for even a few hours could mean the difference between capture and escape. This was especially true in areas contested by both the Wehrmacht and partisans. The lesson here isn't about disguise fantasies, but about adaptability. Understanding local materials, clothing styles, and how to temporarily shed a military profile remains relevant for anyone studying evasion and survival under pressure. Medical alcohol was another quiet essential. Officially for disinfecting wounds, it was often diluted and consumed to dull pain, calm nerves, or stave off shock. Soldiers didn't talk about it afterward because it blurred the line between discipline and desperation. In freezing conditions or after traumatic injuries, small amounts could stabilize a man long enough to reach aid. The modern takeaway is understanding dual-use supplies. Items with medical purposes can also serve psychological and survival roles when properly understood and controlled. Field maps altered by hand were more valuable than issued charts. Soldiers marked water sources, safe barns, sympathetic civilians, and dangerous patrol zones. These personal maps were never meant to be seen by officers. They were survival documents, updated constantly and destroyed if capture was likely. Today, this reinforces the importance of personal terrain knowledge. Relying solely on official or digital maps without personal annotations leaves you blind to real-world conditions. Another overlooked survival item was extra foot wrapping material. Socks wore out quickly, and trench foot was a constant threat. Soldiers used cloth scraps, bandages, and even newspaper to keep feet dry and insulated. The silence around this came from embarrassment, but experienced soldiers knew foot care equaled survival. Modern hikers and survivalists still underestimate this. Knowing how to improvise insulation and manage moisture can prevent injury long before it becomes life-threatening. Food scavenging tools were also quietly prized. A simple knife or sharpened spoon could open cans, butcher livestock, or dig roots when rations failed. Soldiers rarely talked about scavenging because it contradicted official supply narratives. In reality, survival often depended on knowing what could be eaten, how to prepare it quickly, and how to do so without attracting attention. This translates directly into modern survival skills. Foraging knowledge paired with basic tools is more reliable than packaged food alone. Finally, the most important unspoken item was information itself. Soldiers traded rumours, observations and warnings like currency. Knowing which road was mined or which unit had broken meant survival. This informal intelligence network saved lives daily, yet it was never formalised. For today's survival-minded historians, this emphasises situational awareness. Tools matter, but information gathered through observation and shared quietly is often the real lifeline. These 8 survival items weren't heroic, and that's why they were rarely discussed. They were practical, sometimes uncomfortable reminders that survival is about preparation, adaptability, and humility. If this kind of grounded, experience-based history matters to you, subscribe to Legacy of Survival. Share this with someone who takes history seriously, and stay with us as we continue uncovering what actually kept people alive when the world fell apart.